Before our daughter's graduation, my wife said, "Sit outside. Her biological father will take your seat." I said nothing. That night, I sold the apartment, canceled all cards, and disappeared. When they returned home, I had a surprise waiting for them. I sat in the front row of the auditorium, clutching a single bouquet of lilies. I'd spent 18 years raising Maya. I changed every diaper, paid every tuition cent, and held her hand through every fever. I wasn't just a man who married her mother. I was her father in every way that mattered. Then Sarah leaned in. Her breath smelled like expensive wine and betrayal. "You need to move, Mark," she whispered, her eyes cold. "Julian is here. I've reached out to him. He's her real father, and it's only right he takes the seat next to me for the ceremony. You can wait in the hallway or the parking lot. It doesn't really matter." The air left my lungs. I looked at Maya, standing on stage in her cap and gown. She caught my eye, then looked at the sleek man in the tailored suit walking down the aisle. Julian, the man who disappeared before she was born. Maya didn't look confused. She looked expectant. She gave him the smile she usually reserved for me. I didn't argue. I didn't cause a scene. I simply stood up, handed the lilies to a confused usher, and walked out. The silence in my head was deafening. It wasn't sadness. It was a fuse being lit. I didn't go to the parking lot. I went to the bank. For 20 years, I had been the provider. I was a high-level software architect, and every asset we owned was in my name or tied to my accounts. Sarah hadn't worked since the wedding. She liked a luxury stay-at-home lifestyle. I called my realtor, the Penthouse. "List it, now. Cash buyer, under market value, 48-hour closing. I want it gone." "Mark, that's your family home," he said, stunned. "I don't have a family," I replied. I drove home and moved with surgical precision. I didn't take much. Just my passport, my birth certificate, and my grandmother's watch. Everything else, the designer suit Sarah bought with my money, the furniture, the memories, stayed. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. I canceled the supplementary credit cards. I froze the joint savings. Then, I initiated the transfer of the college fund. It wasn't Maya's money. It was my money I had set aside in a revocable trust. Since she had decided her real father was back, he could handle the $60,000 tuition bill due next Monday. By 8 p.m., the locks were changed by a locksmith I paid triple for an emergency call. By 9 p.m., I had signed the digital closing papers for a cash offer from an investment firm. I didn't care about the loss in equity. I cared about the clean slate. I checked my phone. 11:42 p.m. Sarah and Maya would be finishing the family celebratory dinner with Julian. Right about now, I pulled my car out of the driveway for the last time. I drove to a hotel near the airport. My phone blowing up with 42 missed calls and a flood of texts. "Sarah, where are you? We're home and the key isn't working." "Sarah, Mark, this isn't funny. Open the door." "Sarah, why is my card declined? We had to make Julian pay for dinner and it was embarrassing."
"Maya, Dad, what's going on?"
"My tuition portal says the account is empty." I ignored them all. I sat in the hotel bar and ordered a neat scotch. The surprise wasn't just the locked door. It was the man standing on the porch 5 minutes later. A process server I had hired weeks ago. When I first suspected Sarah was talking to her ex, he handed her the envelope as she pounded on the door. Divorce papers, an eviction notice from the new corporate owners of the apartment, and a detailed invoice of every cent I had spent on Maya's private schooling over the last decade, totaling nearly $500,000, with a note, "Best of luck to the new family." I'm sure Julian has the receipts covered. My phone buzzed again. A FaceTime call from Sarah. I answered. Her face was puffy from crying. She was standing on the sidewalk with her luggage, the designer bags I'd bought her. Maya was behind her, looking terrified, clutching her diploma like it was a shield. "Mark, you can't do this!" Sarah screamed. "This is our home! You're Maya's father!" "No," I said, my voice as level as a heartbeat monitor. "You told me to sit outside, remember? You told me I wasn't the real father. I'm just a man who followed your instructions. I've moved to the parking lot of life, Sarah, permanently." "We have nowhere to go!" "Julian doesn't have a house here. He lives in a hotel." "Sounds like a real father problem," I said. "By the way, the new owners are taking possession in 36 hours. I'd suggest finding a cheap motel. Your jewelry should cover a few weeks if you sell it at a pawn shop." "Dad, please!" Maya sobbed into the camera. I felt a twinge of pain, but then I remembered the way she smiled at Julian while I was being discarded like trash. "Congratulations on your graduation, Maya," I said. "I hope your biological father is as good at paying bills as he is at taking seats. Don't call me again." I hung up. I pulled the SIM card from my phone, dropped it into my scotch, and watched the bubbles rise. The next morning, I boarded a flight to Tokyo. One way. I have $3 million in the bank, no wife, no daughter, and no baggage. For the first time in 18 years, the silence wasn't lonely. It was perfect.